I'm glad to be here to hear to see National Geographic Channel's presentation on American generals.
Well, I thought this National Geo documentary was skillfully done. It's a real thought-provoking look at the employment of military power in the coming years. There are no easy answers, and I think this documentary brings that out quite nicely.
Tresha, Mabile, and Peter Bergen, I mean, they have such incredible credibility and pedigree, and were able to secure really great access. And at National Geographic Channel, we sort of pride ourselves on providing our viewers with inside access and context to important events. We have a long tradition of programming that does that.
Like everybody else, wondered how the military got so bogged down in Iraq and then in Afghanistan. And as we started talking to friends and things, we thought, wow, wouldn't this be a great documentary, especially told from the experts who sort of changed the course of the war.
The interviews are really intimate and candid, surprisingly so, thought-provoking, and I think that people are here to, honor them and their leadership and hear what they have to say.
Hey, look, the film focuses on Iraq, and suddenly, that looked like yesterday's story, and now it's today's story. So yes, I think the film will help explain a little bit about how we got to where we are today.
The film is timely, but there are so many issues, not just Iraq, that this film is probably going to remain timely for some time, because it's not just about the geography, it's about the process, the people, how people come up to be leaders in the armed forces, and what kind of people they are. And there are people just like all of us that are still in there working it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, all the guys in the film are, to become a 4-star American general is very hard. They're all very impressive. General Petraeus, I think one thing is not in the film but is sort of relevant is he wrote his PhD about the Vietnam War. Basically, like, one of the themes of the film is the Army tends to fight the kinds of wars that it wants to fight, which are, conventional wars, tanks, and then again and again, whether it's Vietnam, Afghanistan, or Iraq, the war turns out differently, and the Army has to adapt. So it's interesting that Petraeus, as a relatively young man, wrote his PhD at Princeton about precisely this issue, which is we're going to face insurgencies in the future.
No, they're a remarkable, dedicated group of people, many of them wounded in combat, in Vietnam or elsewhere. So, I mean, General Powell's always been one of my personal heroes, so I was glad to be part of the documentary.
Anytime America's assets, whether it's air, sea, or land, are committed to combat, that's a war. Now, Congress declares the war, literally, but yet hasn't done that, even though America's been at war around the world. It's so important to involve the representatives of the people because it's ultimately their constituents who are going to be called upon to serve.
I think there's going to be, the president temperamentally wants to go to Congress, and he should. It's a war, it's a war in another country that American people should have some kind of say.
I think it's surprising how close most of us are in the way we judge things. We would tell you that what's going on in Ukraine is extremely damaging to the United States and very, very dangerous. We would tell you that ISIS has to be fought primarily by the people in the region, and especially by the Saudis. We can reinforce and help them, but it's the people in the region. And I think, most of us have about the same feelings on things when I talk to other retired generals.
I see a lot of reflection. I mean, in the film, General Casey, who was the commanding general in Iraq, goes to Arlington Cemetery where his father was buried, his most senior general to die in Vietnam. And he said he never made a decision without thinking about meeting his father's casket at Dover Air Force Base. And under his watch, more than 2,000 men and women died. I mean, you never get away from that, right? I mean, is that PTSD? I don't know, but it's certainly, you have to live with a lot of responsibility, including the fact that people will die, whatever the decisions you make. Even if you make good decisions, people are still going to die. It's a bit different than, if we make a bad decision, it's just a bad story. I mean,